welcome Exiles to the Dex caster, a caster with too much cast speed and not enough sense to click a different attribute. This character is solely based around the new graphs, which give cast speed per dexterity, a corruption outcome you can get on graphs with the unstable implants. Realistically, dex stackers have never historically been caster builds. There is just no support for it outside of a bit of percent damage scaling, but this graft mod changed that. It said, hey, if you have a bunch of dex, we're going to give you a bunch of cast speed. Notably, you've seen this sort of mod with the dex stack attack speed mod on chess pieces. This is kind of that mod, but for casters, and you can have it twice. So with 5,000 cast or 5,000 dexterity, that ends up giving us 500% cast speed, and then we shoot like a machine gun. This was all just based on the fact Chad had asked for a sub goal for a dex stacker, and we said, you know what, let's see what we can make with that. I didn't really want to do a traditional attack base, so this is the way we went with it. I chose Eye of Winter specifically because I thought the new MTX looked cool, and that was pretty much all I had thought about it. Realistically, you could do this with any cold damage setup because cold to core supports the damage scaling, and it works a little bit better with projectiles because of the proj mastery. Specifically, the reason I'm referencing these things is because, okay, dex will give us a bunch of cast speed, but where do we get our percent damage scaling? Well, there's a few sources. 1% per 16 dex from a mastery. This works with projectile skills, and the reason I reference cold skills is there is a notable called cold to the core, which gives 1% damage per 25 dex along with int and strength. Between our characters, 6,000 attributes. This is giving us close to 250, 260% damage, something like that, which is quite a bit of percent damage increase. So you can get that wherever you have notables. If we went into Megalomaniacs, you could have added more. For me, I just had 2 notables of this, and then I had percent damage via Fractal Thoughts, 1% LE damage per 10 dex, as well as the damage per dex mod on our amulet. All in all, compared to int or strength scaling, dex is still much weaker. We're just doing this because I wanted to see how far we could take dex. Also with dex, we get a lot of evasion. So with just a rare chess piece and the rares and the uniques I'm wearing, we get up to 69,000 evasion. And then that combined with Ghost Dance with a little bit of ES from a hybrid chess piece feels pretty dang good. After all of that, we've paired with this, one of my new favorite of the Bloodline Ascendancies, which is the Ol Ascendancy. You'll notice our character is not wearing very many gems in our sockets. We have empty boots, empty gloves, and empty helmet, which is giving us action speed immunity, stun immunity, and crit immunity. Very strong Ascendancy. If you can find a setup that justifies dropping a lot of sockets, this will work out pretty well. The way I went about achieving this is I went for a multi-link weapon, basically crafting a bunch of supports on a weapon, which means you only use 3 sockets for your main damage setup instead of the normal 6 you would have in the chest piece. Frees up some sockets to go for this Ascendancy. Technically, yes, we could go for a Squire, but to do that, I would have needed to get influenced Gurrikins to still proc my Bound by Destiny, and quite frankly, I didn't want to chance orb that many times to try to hit influenced boots. On top of all that, we are also getting reflect immunity from our Ascendancy, which is pretty nice. We get curse reduction from our flask, and then we have curse reduction on the tree. So we're stocking up a lot of quality of life mitigations, against a lot of bad map mods. That feels pretty dang good. So that's the general idea of the character. Stack some dex, get some cast speed, and then scale some nice quality of life things through Ol. On top of all that, the way we're taking advantage of the Elementalist Ascendancy, I should probably note this, is we have exposure via a notable called Corrosive Elements, which procs cold exposure on hit from cold skills. So that way we get the extra -20 res from the Elementalist. And that 10% shock is actually quite relevant because we're also using a notable called Storm Rider. Storm Rider gives us a chance to generate power charges when we shock a chill enemy. Even though we're not dealing a lot of lightning damage, we have a little bit of flat lightning from our amulet. It's proccing those 10% shocks, which is then allowing us to generate power charges. Before I got Storm Rider, I was playing with the Assassin Ascendancy point and I was stealing Elementalist, but when it came to trying to push the dex number a little bit higher, I gave up the Elementalist jewels to get some more dex scaling jewels, and thus we went to Elementalist because the shock plus 20 exposure plus reflect immune feels pretty good when you're stacking all this mitigation against various map mods. All in all, I did this as a fun little project for a sub goal. I don't ultimately think deck stacking is very strong. It is definitely not efficient for the currency you put in, but I have to say, even though it wasn't necessarily good for the currency I spent on it, it was still plenty viable to do all the Ubers. We did all 10 of them first try, and I had a lot of fun playing it. There is something satisfying about being a literal machine gun, just spraying out skills. And on top of that, one thing I wasn't really quite expecting, but I ended up really liking, was Frost Blink. Being able to just warp around at this level of cast speed. This is no Spell Echo, by the way. Spell Echo would make this much faster, but quite frankly, it would probably be too uncontrollable. Even with this cast speed, it's pretty hard to control, but it's very nice to see if there's an enemy winding up an attack, I can very last minute just warp out of the way, and that feels oh so good. So one of the hidden things I really enjoyed about the character was actually just Frost Blink of Wintry Blast with this much cast speed. So yeah, that is the deck stacking Scion. Just a fun little project we did for a sub goal. Hopefully you guys enjoy looking at the idea of, can you make a caster build with deck scaling? Yes, you can. Probably not recommended. Ultimately, you'd get a lot more scaling going for the actual deck stack mod, which gives you flat damage per cold, but it was something fun to do, and I had a lot of fun putting this character together. So yeah, that is the 5,000 Dex Scion caster. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. As always, thanks for watching. Take care and peace out. Have a good one.